Welcome back, developers, to the One Code Camp channel. So this is part 2 of the series going over DOM manipulation and going more in depth on how to make our JavaScript pages a lot more dynamic. So in the previous video, we were able to go over HTML elements, how to select them, and a bit of how to modify them using inner HTML. So in order to continue, let's go back to our VS Code. Alright, so let's continue where we left off. So we were able to use the getElementById class name and tag name, and the query selector and query selector all in the previous video. And we were able to change the inner HTML of the first h1 tag to goodbye world. But what other things can we do in order to manipulate our DOM? So the first thing we could do is what we talked about last time, inner HTML. So this is able to change the contents of an HTML element to whatever we want. So it could be text, or it could also be an HTML tag inside as well. So we could say inside here is, let's say inside this inner HTML, we could say it's going to be a span that has a style of red. We just type that and say this is red. Well, we have to give it a style of red. There you go. And we could add in, this is not red. So if we look at the result here, we were able to generate a span tag inside of the h1 tag. So if we try to inspect this, we can see that there's actually a span here, and we actually changed the HTML inside of the h1 tag. And the counterpart of this would be text content. So let's see what the difference is with these two. So let's change this to text content. So instead, it will not render out as HTML, and we would just get everything that we put in the quotes as a string that will be the new text inside of the h1 tag. So next would be setting attributes. So this if you want to add a new class, or a new ID, or a new name, or any attribute that you so choose. So let's say hello, dot set attribute. Just give it a class of new class. So in this case, we set the attribute of hello, and this is a method that will use two arguments to add in a new attribute to an element. And if you notice here, we could see that new class has been added to our h1. So in case you want to be able to add new things, so let's say you want to make a name instead, we can do that, and that is a name or an ID. And we could see that it replaced the ID as well. Alright, so I'm going to set it back to class. And the next thing we're going to do is the counterpart, which is get attribute. And we could actually log what's happening in here. And we were able to get the class of the h1, which was new class, the one we just set. Now I can move on to changing the style directly. So let's say I want to change the styling of hello. So I could say hello dot style. So this is going to tap into all of the CSS that's currently assigned to hello. And in case you want to add something new, we could just call the specific property. So let's say I want to change the color, and we're going to make it blue. And there you go. Now it actually changed everything to blue because JavaScript will override everything as it runs from top to bottom. So the lowest code will always be the one that will persist. Okay. And we could actually give this a font size as well. And we could change it to maybe 300 pixels. Oh, that's too big. So maybe we could lessen that to 50. And we could see the difference now. All right. After that, we've actually gone over all of the ways to change the style directly and add in new attributes and change the content and the HTML of certain elements. But it doesn't stop there. We can actually create new elements using JavaScript as well. So now I'm going to introduce a new term. It's called const, and const is a term that we use to create a variable that will not be changed later on. So this could be links to specific elements in the HTML, or just something that you're not going to change later on in the code, or update the value of later on. So you could say const new paragraph is equal to document dot, and now we're going to call in a new method called create element. So in this case, it's going to create a new element that we're going to specify inside our arguments. And let's say I want to create a new P for paragraph. So we're then going to change the new paragraph's current text content, and we could just give it a random set of lorem. Now if I could type that, there you go. And then close everything in quotes. There you go. And now we have a new paragraph with text content, but we're not going to be able to see this yet because it's currently not in the document. Or at least the position is not yet currently set. So now we're going to get the specific place where we want to put it. So I think we've already created a place for it here with div. So we're just going to call in div. And now we're going to call in a new method called append child. So this is just going to append the new paragraphs at the last part of the div. Well, in this case, this is going to be the only thing inside of the div currently. So this would be the first thing to appear here. And there we go. Now it's already able to be generated. Wait, why is it in the P class? Okay, so I think there is something that needs to be changed here. And this div is actually getting the query selector of dot element list. So we're going to change that to be div. And that should be the right code now. Yep. All right. So now we're able to generate some new content and new elements inside of our document. So the next thing we could do is actually remove specific elements. So you're able to get, update, and create. Now we can remove. Next thing we're going to do is remove elements. So now we're going to select a specific element that we want to remove. So let's say I want to remove the second hello world here. So we could say, let's check what these currently has. So we could utilize our query selector all again. And we can say, let second heading equal document dot query selector. And we could say h1. And we get index 1. So this will be the second one in the list. So let's just confirm that we're getting the right one by logging it. And it's currently undefined. So I think we should look inside. And it's only outputting 1. And turns out I forgot all. So let me actually run that back, and there you go. And now we have the second h1 inside of our list. Okay. And now what I'm going to do with the second heading is I'm going to call remove. So now we have actually removed the second h1. Actually pretty instantaneous. Without it, it will generate, and with it, it generated, but it has been removed instantly. So that's an example of being able to remove elements with DOM manipulation. So the last thing we need to delve in here is actually with the node list. So with this node list, we were able to utilize the contents of query selector all because h1 actually has multiple instances inside of our document. So let's try and get that node list once again. So we could say let heading list is equal to document dot query selector all h1, and then we can log its current contents. So we could say heading list And we could see a node list right here of our H1s. And just to confirm there's actually a node list, we could actually say instance of node list. So it would return to us as true. So instance of is actually really good at checking the typings of certain variables. So we can now see that the heading list is an instance of a node list. All right. So now we are able to change the inner HTML, the text content, set the attribute, and get the attribute that we set, change the style directly, create new elements, and remove those elements as well. So these are the basics of DOM manipulation. And we could actually apply these in our own projects now. So we could use this in order to make our pages a lot more dynamic. So I think that will wrap it up for today's video. So hopefully you were able to learn a thing or two in DOM manipulation. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching OneCodeCamp.